This is a story about an old woman, a very old woman, a far older old woman than any old woman you've ever known. And the reason was she was so old. It's quite simple. Death had forgotten her. You know, the reason it works, Mr. Death, with his big long black cloak and his book and his scythe and things, he has this big book, his diary, and in the book there's a list every day, tells you who he's got to collect. And on the day when he was supposed to be collecting this old lady, well, it was a busy day. There were catastrophes, natural disasters, all kinds of things. People were dying by the hundreds, the thousands, and he was rushing around all around the world, collecting people all day long. And her name at the bottom of this page, it just got forgotten. He just missed her. And so there she was, living away quite happily, getting older and older by the day, the week, the month, the year. And then one day, Death happened to find he had a quiet day. He sat there, he'd finished by lunchtime. He was very tempted just to put his feet up and have 40 winks in the afternoon, but no, he thought he'd better be conscientious and look through his book. And there, sure enough, there were columns and columns and columns of ticked off names all the way down, and he was turning the pages and, yeah, I finished. And then all of a sudden, at the bottom of a page, he noticed one name without a tick. He thought, oh dear, that was a long time ago. I hope I just forgot to tick her name. If she's still there, I could be in big trouble. And so he thought he'd better go and find out. And so there was the old woman working away in her house quite happily, and knock, knock, knock on the door, and she opened the door, and there's Mr. Death standing there. Oh, you are there, are you? Said Mr. Death. You better come with me. Quick, you should have come ages ago. Oh, it's not very convenient at the moment, she said. I've got cake in the oven. I'm halfway through the washing up. I've got people coming round this afternoon. I can't come with you now. And Mr. Death is quite a nice old bloke, really. So he said, OK, it was my fault. I should have collected you ages ago. But seeing as it's my fault, I'll let you off. I'll come back and collect you tomorrow. But you make sure you're ready. But the next day was another of those busy days. There were earthquakes and fires and natural disasters of all kinds. There were wars and famines. There were floods. Death was flying around from morning till night. Didn't have time to get everything done as well as he'd like to do it, collecting people by the thousands. And he forgot to go back to collect her. And so more time passed. Days, weeks, months, years passed, and she was getting older and older. She had children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. Everyone knew of her. You know, they'd said, you know, that old lady who lives up there, she was old when my granddad was a little boy. Didn't know how old she could be. But then, as things do sometimes, it just suddenly flashed into Mr. Death's brain. I never did go back and collect that old woman, did I? I should have gone ages ago. And so, again, there she was, quite happily going about her life. Knock, knock, knock on the door. She opened the door, and there was Mr. Death standing there. Oh, it's you again, she said. You do muck me about. You come when I'm not expecting you. That day when you said you'd come back for me, I stayed in all day. I had my hat and coat on, I had my handbag ready. I was ready to come with you, and you didn't arrive. Well, I can't possibly come with you now. I'm far too busy. OK, said Mr. Death. I admit it was my fault. I have mucked you about. I'll come back and I'll collect you tomorrow. And this time I'll make sure I don't forget. And he went out into the garden and he found a piece of chalk and he wrote in great big letters over her door, tomorrow. That will make sure I don't forget, he said. And he didn't. The next day, knock, knock, knock on the door. There he was standing there. I've come for you as we arranged, he said. Oh, but you've got it wrong, she said. And she took Mr. Death by the arm and she led him out into the garden. She turned him round. She pointed up at the writing over the door. She said, look, you've come today, but that says tomorrow. And so Mr. Death never has managed to collect her because, as we all know, tomorrow never comes.